At this time, we'll call our meeting to order. Let us please stand for the invocation and the pledge of allegiance. To you who made the universe, who sustain all life, we thank you for this great day. We thank you for the opportunity to be upon this earth, to be of service. We ask that you guide us with your wisdom and your knowledge and your all-seeing vision. We ask that you empower us to do what is best and correct, not only for this city for today, but that we will be able to create a path for us to grow into the future, to leave a pathways for those who are to come behind us. So therefore we ask that we may step aside, and your great wisdom will guide each and every decision that shall be made. It is in your precious name that we do pray. Amen.
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 I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Council. At this time, we do have an addendum, and if there's no objection, I would like to request that we add this agenda item of appearance before Council, which will be Mr. Gary Finkley. Is there any objections? If not, our addendum will be added to our agenda. Mr. Finkley will be placed as item C on our appearances before Council. At this time, we have the approval of our minutes from March the 14th, 2022. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
We have a motion and a second.
And second with correction.
State correction, please.
It had me as present and it had me as absent.
That correction is noted. Any other discussion or corrections? If not, all those in favor of receiving the minute with necessary correction, please say so by aye.
Aye.
And opposed, like sign. The minutes have been received and approved. Next, we'll go to our appearances before Council. First, we have Mr. Brandon James, who is a business owner. Is Mr. James present? Not seeing Mr. James at this time, we'll move forward to item B. Ms. Ellen Hamilton, the Executive Director for PD Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault. Thank you, Ms. Hamilton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and it is so good to see everybody. It's been a very long time, and I'm going to do this with Chief Heidler. When I first met Chief, he didn't have all that white hair, and that's been about 36 years ago. April the 1st in 1987, we started providing 24-hour crisis response to area hospitals and our crisis line in 3 counties. And at that time, there were 8 hospitals. There were 4 in Florence alone. And we could not have done that without the support of this city and the Florence Police Department. We had no money. We begged space wherever we could find it. And fortunately, people were gracious enough not to turn us down. So I'm here to say thank you. You've got a packet of information, and I would just ask that you please take the time to look at it. But I asked Chief to be here with me because at that time, it was Ralph Porter, who was the chief, Devin Saludi was the solicitor, Billy Barnes was the sheriff. And we begged and borrowed just about everything we could. Rocky Pierce was the mayor and helped us out. So just thank you so much for 35 years of support. Thank you for your public service. And please, during this month of April, especially you gentlemen, everybody expects women to talk about sexual assault and child abuse. It happens to boys. And when boys experience trauma, it has a long time impact, just like it does with women. So please take the time to talk to your children, talk to your employees, talk amongst yourself. It's important. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. Chief?
to the council. Do anyone have any questions or any comments? If not, thank you so much for all that you have done to increase awareness, not only here but throughout the PD. We appreciate everything you're doing. Thank you.
Couldn't have done it without you.
Thank you.
Thank you. What she didn't say was that we were only 18 years old when this came out. The reason why the was much darker. I have to say that, prior to the PD Coalition being in place, we had few resources for crime victims, especially those of sexual assault, domestic violence, and child abuse. They have been a tremendous resource for law enforcement in this entire area. Although she asked me just to come up here and say a couple of things, I want to take this opportunity to thank them for all that they do in this area for crime victims, and I really believe that they were a catalyst in this area and across this state for the startup of victim services everywhere. So thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, next we have on our appearance before council is Mr. Gary Finkley. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council, for allowing me to speak. I have owned a parcel of property off of Sam Howell Road in northeast Florence for probably 15 years. When I bought it, we began development plans, and I think it's probably before anybody's time on council. Probably Mr. Peterson was around, Scotty was around, and shortly after I bought it, thank the Lord, a moratorium was placed on development in the area, and it saved me from further financial disaster. But we intended to go full force and develop this 46-acre parcel into residential homes. I would now like to resume and pick up where we left off back in 08-09 and begin to develop this property. When I annexed into the city, I did so with the understanding that the city would provide water and sewer, and the city is willing to provide water and sewer, but the devil's always in the detail. In my opinion, providing water and sewer means you actually bring it up to my property line, and I do all the work once it's at my property line, or most of it. In this particular case, sewer is on the other side of the street of Sam Howell Road, and you'd say, well, that's not bad, and it's not bad relatively speaking, but it's still about a $40,000 venture to get sewer from one side of Sam Howell to my side of Sam Howell. So first, I'm asking you to do what I thought the city agreed to do when I annexed it, and that is to provide water and sewer to my property line. Now, I don't even know if we can find the annexation permits and the petitions back then. I know now what we try to do is put that in black and white on the document itself, but we can't find that. It's also my understanding there's some concern about what water and sewer being available means. And so city staff, if the city is obliged to help, does not perceive it has the authority to engage in the normal feasibility analysis that goes into when a property is annexed and water and sewer is provided. So I'm asking city council to please see if there's some way that you can work with me to bring this development to fruition. The second, if we just can't go back and do it under feasibility analysis because of what I was hoping would be accomplished when it was originally petitioned and annexed, is to give some consideration to it. It is in a CDBG area, and I know it's an area that this council has expressed a desire into having some private development in. And I'm willing to make an investment. Also, it's a substantial investment, and I don't think everyone knows sometimes of the cost that goes into these things. Sometimes there's a thought that developers make a lot of money. Well, I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of risk, and there's not a lot of money. And if your development is successful, you'll pay the bills and you'll make a reasonable rate of return. But I'll tell you, this year I'm probably closing out 3 projects that I've had under my belt for 15 years. You don't make money when you pay interest on a project for 15 years. So thank the Lord I'm finally out of that, and I had a good day job to keep the bank happy. In the meantime, this is another one of those. And so I'm trying to turn my attention to it. I do think residential housing will go well there. Along with a partner, developed Cedar Creek subdivision, or Clark Place subdivision, which was right around the corner. And that took a while, but we've got a great community out there. I've done one in East Florence, not necessarily north Cedar Creek, and that's not in the city, but the city provides services there. So, and y'all know I have a lot of experience with this, but my initial thought is to develop 8 lots off the front of Sam Howell Road, as is outlined there, and I've also highlighted the sewer line. You see it just needs to come from one side of Sam Howell to the other. And then also in the little inset at the bottom, it's really fine print. I just wanted y'all to see what my vision was, and that is once we sell lots off the front, that is to do another road, and we'll do 16 lots. When that one works, we'll do another road for 16 lots. So we'll tie into Ward Circle. This community will eventually back up to Spalding Heights and the county park in the rear. So I know it's an unusual request. I certainly don't expect an answer today, but I would greatly appreciate some thought into if there's some way that the city could provide some assistance with that. Residential development is crucial to Florence. I know so many times we give a lot of attention to major industrial announcements, but when a developer does a subdivision, it's a substantial economic impact, not only to the area, but the jobs, the suppliers in the area, and it's just a domino effect. So thank you very much for your consideration.
At this time, the chair recognizes Pro Tem DeBailey.
I have a question for our city attorney. Jim, this was a matter that got added as an addendum to our agenda, and frequently with something like this, we would have a potential to go into executive session because it involves contracts and whatnot with the city. I don't see that we have this obviously scheduled for executive session, but it seems like an appropriate matter to be taken up in executive session, but so that we can be informed of all of the information. And I know Ms. Finkley has no concerns about that, but I was wondering from a process standpoint, would it be appropriate to do it here, or would we have to wait till next meeting? What would be the process that we would handle this?
I think it would be more appropriate to wait until the next meeting to do that. Again, as you know, in recognition of the Freedom of Information Act requirements on the agenda, anytime we think we're going to have the possibility of needing an executive session, we try to show that on the agenda. Can't say that there's no way we could do it, but as Mr. Finkley indicated, he wasn't asking for action today.
Sure.
So I think the more appropriate way would be to have that on the agenda for the next meeting, at which point we could certainly do that and look into the legal issues involved.
I'm sure that meets with your approval.
Oh, absolutely, and I expect that. I just wanted an opportunity to staff.
Sure.
Just felt they've done as much as they could, and they said this was the next spot to take it, and I'd like to do that. And I didn't finish my thought. 30 was the contribution I'm asking for the city. I think the other contribution we've got in the bill it's another $50,000 just for the sewer for this phase. So that lets you know the substantial cost that it takes to start a development, and it's difficult to pass that along to consumer. We've got to keep the product affordable. So that's just another reason I'm asking for your help in this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Chair recognizes Councilman Brian Braddock.
Well, one thing, Gary, I want to just say thank you. This is exactly what we're looking for in the city of Florence: residential homes, people, and to use local builders, local contractors to do that. So this is exactly what we need. This is exactly what people are looking for, and I think to even look at something a little bit broader, you have your own particular situation, but we've developed a committee now, the Community Development Committee, and looking to clean up lots of abandoned homes, but also to incentivize construction in the North Florence, East Florence for residential homes. So I think we even consider how
how we could bring that into that part of the process of demolishing homes, but then incentivizing new development. I know that we do some water taps, and things like that for builders, but you got to get the roads developed first before you can put in a water tap. So maybe when we look to executive session or the next committee meeting, Councilwoman Barnes has that meeting to look at appropriating some funding to help developers to build neighborhoods in these areas. This is exactly what we're looking for. So thank you for being willing to take the risk to do that.
Yes.
Do we have any other comment? Chair recognizes Councilwoman Barnes.
I ditto what, what's your name?
Bob.
Brian, yeah, Bob said. One of the things that we just talked about was trying to incentivize contractors or developers to move in the area that would support the infrastructure. And that is one of them. That's the area when we're so far away from the water system, it puts a strain on us. That is a great area for us to actually support the water system. So thank you.
And this is an infill area. The last subdivision is the one, I think, one of the reasons it was extended that I mentioned. So, and this is a shovel-ready project. I've actually got my permits, believe it or not, ready, and I've got a local builder committed to start on these lots. So,
What size homes? Oh, I'm sorry.
Chair recognizes Councilman Craig.
Bob.
What size homes are you looking to build, Gary, and what kind of price range?
this property is zoned what I call the old R3. I still haven't got the new the designations down, maybe RG3. But the lots on the front are actually going to be larger because when we rezoned it initially, I promised the people in the community we would do more R2 size lots. So that's what you're going to see on the front two rows is R2 size lots. So the lots will be, I think it's around 8,000 square feet. I have not identified restrictions, but I imagine there will have to be about a minimum of 1,500. I envision brick front on these homes, and I would imagine with the cost of things now, so 180,000 would be a price point. Again, we have to be careful not to price ourselves out of the market, and we've got to get the ball rolling out there. If we get it rolling, things will go a little better, and that's another purpose of the request. So to get it started. So.
Do you have any other questions or comment? If not, thank you.
Thank you, Council. I
We
appreciate
appreciate
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance in position. Our first ordinance is Bill number 2022-06 for second reading. It's an ordinance to annex Bluffs at Mill Creek, identified as Florence County Tax Map Parcel number 00152-01-021. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Let it reflect that this bill has passed. Next, we have Bill number 2022-08 for a second reading. It's an ordinance to abandon any city interest in the right-of-way located behind 900 and 902 Oakland Avenue, identified as Florence County Tax Map Parcel number 90114-13-01 and 90114-13-013. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed, like sign. Next, we have introductions of ordinance. Our first ordinance has been requested to be deferred, and that was Bill number 2022-01. The applicant actually requested to have that deferred. So next, we have Bill number 2022-07 for its first reading. In its ordinance to rezone from PDD to AC, a position of the parcel located on Second Loop Road, identified as Florence County Tax Map Parcel number 90030-02-007. Do we
Motion
have?
to defer.
Second.
We have a motion to defer with a second. All those in favor, please raise their hand so I can make sure we have a good count.
Can we have discussion? I just want to make.
First, we've got a motion and that
If
defers.
it's not appropriate, then we don't have to. But
Right, so all those in favor of the motion to defer, signify by raising your hand. Let the record reflect 3. And all those in opposition, please raise your hand.
What? I'm kind of confused. What are we doing? Deferring from,
Defer would mean that we would not hear upon this today. It would be moved again to the next agenda, and it was deferred last month to this month. So we have 3 hands to defer. So we have 4. Let's raise hands. So we have 4 for deferral. So we have 5 for deferral. All those opposed, raise your hand. All right, so 5 for deferral to proceed. Let the record reflect that this item has been deferred. And by being deferred, we had 2 individuals to speak upon that, but since it's been deferred, they won't be speaking because the item is no longer on the table, correct, parliamentary?
That would be up to the chair
Okay.
to make that decision.
All right. Well, since we do have individuals signed up, I would like to hear from them. We do have a representative from the community, Ms. Mary Jane Weir. Is Ms. Mary Jane present? You're welcome to come forth if you desire to speak.
Okay, my name is Mary Jane Weir. I live at 1437 Dorchester Road. And I just here represent the Tarleton West neighborhood, which we have several people that have taken off from their busy day at work to come here because this is an important issue. We are more than welcome and we're more than ready to place ourselves available to have additional conversations about the property and how it affects us. But we have a huge concern about the impact of this development on our neighborhood. And I've got a packet that you guys can all read through. It's about 20 pages, and I've got a copy for everybody. You can more than, I'll keep one for myself. And keep one. But a lot of it goes into what is the impact on our neighborhood, whether it's traffic. We've got water issues already. We've got flooding issues at the bottom of the hillside where sewage comes up when it rains too much. The traffic is the most horrendous thing. We have noise issues. Tarleton West was built and put in place when Second Loop was still 2 lanes, and that was in the early 70s. And now that area has grown so much, traffic has become terrible. We're a cut-through neighborhood, and it's destroying the whole development around. It's destroying a neighborhood that's well established with some decent single-family homes in it. And we've got a huge opposition to it, and we could go through all these points, but I think a lot of it's reading it, and we did speak last week a bit on this. If there's any questions, but I kind of went into, what is the trash impact when you put in that many homes or that many people in there, sewage impact, police impact, and we've got 1,600 plus proposed people new to the city, right, with all these apartment complexes, which I have all listed and where they are in here too. And what is the impact? Do we need another police officer for that? Do we need another whatever? And all these things need to be considered. And I would love to have us have a master plan to say what is the impact incrementally upon these little pieces that keep getting introduced and putting on our city. I kind of related also. I had a little bag, like someone gives you a bag of M&Ms and you say, "Oh, I'll just take one." Right? I can do it. And then you end up eating the whole bag, and before you know it, you've gained all this weight, and you're in spandex. And you all of a sudden you're a big fat person because you kept eating M&Ms. Well, because you couldn't stop. And I kind of equate that to us. We can take little pieces. You can put an apartment here, you can put an apartment there, but when you look at it on the whole, what is the impact on our city and how does it affect us? We've already got the highest rental rate, one of the higher rental rates in the state of South Carolina. We're at 42%. The average is 29%, and this is just going to make us more with all these proposed multifamily housing we're putting in. Single family is what developers, I love that fact that we're getting some single family homes in here. When you're looking for new businesses, they're looking at that. They're looking at the rental rates. The rental rates, when they're high, they don't want to move their business in because they want to have home ownership because they've got executives, they have workers that want to own a home. And this is just as conducive for that. And those are the concerns. Like I said, I got a big packet. If you have any questions, I could go on probably for an hour. I doubt you want me to, but I could. I could just say, "Shut up, Mary Jane." But I appreciate your time and listening to that. But we have concerns, and we really just got presented with this, and we really weren't aware as a neighborhood until just recently. So we've really just started to accumulate some force to really oppose it, and we do. And we're just wondering where things are.
Thank you, Ms. Weir. At this time, we do have 2 council members who want to comment. First, we'll recognize Mayor Pro Tem Jabali, followed after him would be Councilman Braddock, followed by Braddock would be Councilwoman Barnes.
I just have a request. Would you mind writing your phone number down here so I can
Sure.
chat with you later?
I will. Okay. I'll make sure we get it done.
Okay,
It's an Ohio number.
all right.
Thank you.
I'll give her a moment just to write, and then you can go through.
Thank you very much.
Was it first one?
No, I think it's your pack.
Oh,
Councilman Braddock.
Madam Mayor, one, I want to thank everyone for coming here today, and I appreciate what you put together. I've spoken to Mr. Connolly, the developer, and several residents of the neighborhood. And one of the things in terms of the deferral that I wanted to see is there was recently a meeting with the contractor and the residents for another development in Harmony Street. And so that gave an opportunity in a forum that's a lot more open, that's not as structured, as ours, where there could be a dialogue and a back and forth. And that would be my suggestion is to have this dialogue, back and forth, and at least have a platform where if there is an opportunity to mitigate any concerns, then at least that could be addressed. But that is the time that we wanted to allow. We represent our constituents, and the constituents have spoken, not just by phone calls and emails, but showing up. And y'all need to have a voice, and y'all need to be heard. I appreciate Madam Mayor for giving you the opportunity to speak, even though we've deferred this item. But that would be my suggestion, is to do something very similar to what just happened with the Harmony Street development, and having an open forum. And I wasn't a part of that. I wasn't there, but I heard it went very well. Maybe Councilwoman Florence could speak to that. But thank y'all very much for showing up. Thank you, Mr. Connolly, for calling and reaching out to all of us. It's just I think it needs to be more of a direct conversation than a conversation through council, the constituents, the neighbors. And being a good neighbor, I'm sure that you would want to speak to them as well.
And we actually did reach out, and we had a conversation yesterday. But I will say, we really don't have any opposition against the developer. I mean, the developer is a business opportunity coming in, and there's money to be made, right? I don't have a problem with that. The problem I have with is the impact on us. And I also say the city of Florence just needs to have a better plan in place to how do we handle this growth, and how do we support it, and who's going to be paying for this, who's going to be paying for that. A development comes in, and then 4 years later, guess what? We found out we don't have the right sewage, we don't have the right whatever. We got to buy an extra trash truck. You're not going to be able to go back to the developer and say, you need to give me $1 million to fix all this stuff. So we need to have a plan in place as we grow as a city. And growth is great, but we got to make sure that we have the funds and it doesn't strap the existing tax base to support this. And I think that's our biggest. Like I said, the developer is here. It's an investment for him. And I think from the city standpoint, we'd love to see a plan in place to go forward. And I think we have several people that would love to volunteer and help with that. I would be. I do work full time, but hey, what's another few hours?
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Barnes.
Councilman Braddock said pretty much what I was going to say. My hesitation on actually raising my hand was because I wanted the dialogue, because we represent the people, and we want the people to have the conversation with the contractor to give opportunity to see if things can work out, and then we try our best to see how we can move forward without staying the same. I say that often. So that was my hesitation on raising my hand. I would love to see the conversation between the developer and the community.
Do we have any other questions or comment from Ms. Weir? Chair recognizes.
Yeah, and I would echo that. I was at the Harmony Street one, and it went, I thought, extremely well. The community had very significant concerns, and the developer had an interactive process where they talked about it, said, okay, we're going to go back and rework it a little bit to see if we can come up with something. And candidly, they went from all apartments to now they're going to be building some single-family homes as a part of the Harmony Street project that they're looking at. So they understand that the community is wanting more single-family homes. single-family units. So I think, Brian, you and Peaches had talked about that, and I do think that's something that we as council, all of us, have heard very loud and clear from the community, that people are interested in seeing more single-family homes and less apartments, because we do have a very high percentage of rental properties in the city of Florence, and we want to see that number go down as there are more single-family home units built. So I think we appreciate you coming. I'll follow up with you with a phone call if that's
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, there's a lot of information in here. I'm a nerd. I love data, so I think we have, I think something can be improved in the city, and I think it's also working with the county, because everybody's got to be knowing what is the impact, and impact is the key. And I think that always has to be part of what is the impact on our community.
Thank
And
you.
before you leave, Ms. Weird, I do want to express and let you know that I've had conversation with Ms. Weir, as long as with others from the second area. We spoke, and then as she stated, she did get to speak to the developer. And also, there's some comments with Harmony Street, and I do want to put out to the fact that Harmony Street is what we call our catalytic area. In the city of Florence, we identified 3 areas that was considered catalytic areas. One area was the area located with the Sumter Street area. Another area was in the area from Vista Street area. And the other catalytic area is Pine Street area. Those areas over time, especially with district, where the Sumter Street has went from home ownership to over 70% rental, which contributed to the downward decline of the community. So when we look at Harmony Street, that development, that area is already signified or designated to be single-family homes. What is occurring there is that the developers is coming in and asking for a change from single-family to an N 6.3, which converts that property over to having apartments built, which is really in contrast to what the city has projected to move us toward home ownership. And the community understands that, because the community was involved with the community development plan for the area. And what happened with that meeting is that the developer did bring forth some single-family lots, 30 or 33, that he's suggesting that he could actually prepare those lots and then get a builder to come in and build. But he's prepared to go ahead and build the apartments there. With that meeting, the community signifies still that the goal is to have more home ownership, whereas this, what the developer is suggesting now, will give you 160 rental properties compared to about 30-something. So upon leaving the community meeting or preparing, the community is planning to meet with the developer again, because they are not satisfied with that projection which he's given, because you're asking the community to give up single-family home designation for apartments. So that is one of the reasons with the Harmony Street that is still moving along, and the developer, I would have to give them good credit that they was willing to defer, because they want to communicate with the community. So those are good things when you see the communities and the developers communicating together. So I thank you for your report, because I know some of your work history. And so I appreciate the fact that you prepared that for us. And I know that as a council, we will read through it. And we're hoping that as a city that we can continue to grow, but have productive, positive growth. So thank you for being a citizen who come forward to speak to us. We appreciate it.
Anybody has questions, they can feel free to call, email, whatever. You've got and I'll get my email and information, and I'm available for any discussions if anybody has questions about concerns too.
And Ms. Weir, before you leave, if you share your information with Ms. Moore, Ms. Casey Moore, she'll be able to get that from you and share it with the council as a whole. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Next, we have on our appearances before council, we have Mr. Kevin Conley and also Mr. James Weaver. I think I pronounced that right. Oh, wait.
Thank you, Mayor, and members of council.
You're welcome.
I won't take up much of your time. It's not much need. First of all, we had very little opportunity to adapt our plan. The site just isn't large enough to be able to do that much. Second of all, I did talk with some of the neighborhood representatives over the weekend, and it was a respectful conversation. I think that there's and that's the main reason I wanted to come and talk to you today. I think there's a misconception among the multifamily versus the single family. I've built single family. I've built over 600 homes. And I can tell you that, there was one comment made about, developers coming in, building something and leaving and, not paying any attention to the community. And that's not true. I own one property here in Florence. It's been in existence. We keep it maintained. In every municipality, I own probably 60 apartment communities. In every municipality, the mayor, the city manager, council members have my cell phone number, and they call me. A lot of them call me if a soda can hits the ground. So we try to keep our properties maintained. We have a zero tolerance policy on crime and drugs. We make sure that we control what happens on our communities to the best of our ability. We work with all the local police departments to make sure that happens. I was one of the first developers, or the first developer in the state, to start putting camera systems on our properties to protect not only our residents, but the surroundings of our residents. As far as this particular site, it's an infill site. It doesn't contribute to urban sprawl. That's one thing you got to think about is when you develop further and further out, you have to make sure the roads are adequate going out that far. You have to make sure the utilities are adequate going out that far. And new construction, I'm not going to stand here and tell you I know all the the details and the challenges with every street in Florence because I don't. But I will tell you that under new engineering criteria, we have to design our facilities where our post-water runoff is the same as our pre-development water runoff. So we're not imposing on those drainage facilities. Many times I've been in municipalities and we've contributed. I redeveloped whole city blocks before. And we were the catalyst that a neighborhood needed to kind of get started. And before we went in, it was a neighborhood that, people said, I don't really want to live there or whatever. And it was a depressed area. We've gone in and driven a wedge in. And we did that in Rock Hill. I can show you examples of that, and you can talk to the mayor there. But we drove a wedge into the community and changed the whole dynamic character. By the time we were on our third phase in there, people that didn't want to live there were now coming in and saying, hey, and we did single family. We did single family as rental, but we controlled them. There were single family homes. We had people coming up wanting to buy the homes, and we're like, look, we can sell these at the end of our 15-year term to individuals, but right now they're under a common layer of financing. But we work with the city to create a TIF district so that all the taxes in these facilities do pay property taxes. They pay property taxes at a 6% rate versus a 4% rate for home ownership. So they're definitely paying their fair share in property taxes. We put in a tremendous amount of infrastructure for communities. And that TIF district that we set up, that the city set up, and we paid our property taxes for that, they used that to go and get a municipal bond. And when we got there, the roads looked like cobblestone streets. There was no sidewalks. The utilities were in bad shape. They used that TIF district money to get a bond to fix up the roads, the streets, and completely change the character of the neighborhood. So there's a lot that can be done. I agree, it takes communication, and we're happy to look at other opportunities, and do just what you're talking about doing. I understand this site might not have been the site that was, because it was a compact site, and it was a little more challenging to, do some of those issues. As far as, we get a lot of time about schools, you're adding a lot of units, you're adding a lot of school age kids. Actually, we've got study after study that shows that the multifamily unit produces like less school age kids per unit than single family homes do. but yet we're paying taxes. And the facility that I already own here in Florence is a seniors community. That's paying towards school taxes, where single-family homes, because of House Bill 388, don't contribute much toward the school taxes. So I've got a seniors community over there that doesn't have any school-age kids, but we're paying, like $26,000 a year towards school taxes. So I didn't want to leave here today with any of the council members or any of the community thinking that this is a bad thing. Okay, I understand that there's some people that don't understand and some people that don't want it, but that may always be the case. But there are definitely folks in the community, your servers at your restaurants. For any community to be able to grow, you've got to have a mix of housing, and you've got to have some units that are affordable to people. A big problem right now with single family is the median, with the inflation that's going on. It's getting more and more out of reach for people to have down payment money, to be able to afford that. So while I understand there might be a higher percentage of rental, but I did look at that rental percentage that was stipulated. Only 17% in Florence is apartments. The rest, the big gap is you've got a lot of single-family homes that are for rent. Okay, and but that's that the multifamily does have a play in almost all municipalities that does a good thing, and I just wanted to express that to you. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. And I think all of you have my cell phone number now. So,
Council, do any council member have any questions? Chair recognizes Pro Tem Bailey.
I just want to thank you for coming forward and being here today and sharing your perspective with us, and also expressing your willingness to continue the conversations and continue to meet with members of council as well as the community to see what can happen, because we all recognize, as you say, having affordable housing is important. And so it's not that I don't think anybody is opposed to having affordable housing, or you as a developer. I think that was expressed from the person who spoke before. I think it's how can we make it work collectively. So appreciate your willingness to be here and to work with us, because I think it's important. Thank you very much.
And Chair recognizes Councilman Patrick Moore.
Okay, what bothers me with apartments is that when they're first built, everyone's excited and they're well kept. But then over the years, people move in, people move out, people move in, people move out, and it becomes a dump.
Hmm?
So
if I can address that?
Excuse me?
Can I address that?
Sure you can.
Okay. So that is true. I mean, the multifamily, though, the properties that we own, I still own the first one that I ever developed. A lot of developers come in, build apartments, and sell them and capitalize and move on. That's not our motive. I still own the first development, the first multifamily development that I did. I had one in Georgetown, actually on Winyon Bay in Georgetown, and I have one in Greer. It's an elderly facility. And both of those are still in existence. They're in great shape. And, we maintain them and make sure they stay well. We want to be, a good neighbor in the community. So I completely understand your point.
Any other things, Councilman?
So how would you maintain the apartments? I mean, would people, okay, this person moves in, about 6 months later, they get evicted, and somebody else comes in. And before you know it, those apartments, they're no longer quality. They don't have that quality of life that people are looking for, but the neighborhood's looking for. That's why we're more interested in single-family houses, especially home ownerships, because in that community, we need home ownerships. We really don't need any more apartments.
Well, honestly, that's one of the reasons that when I started building single-family communities, I did entire subdivisions we built, and a lot of what we built were starter homes. And what we saw was that, we would build a community, and the very thing that you're saying happened in single family. Every time that, they would be a little less maintained each time, and before you knew it, soon the single family community wasn't what we built it as. And I would have neighbors call me and say, hey, Mr. Smith is parking his, semi-truck in his front yard. And I was like, look, we put restrictive covenants on that property. You as a neighborhood need to police that, and that's in your purview now. And they said, well, no, we want you to do something about that. And I'm like, you don't understand. When I sold that property, I gave them a deed. I don't have the control over that property anymore. On our properties that I still own, I have 100% control. So yes, people move in, people move out. We keep the properties maintained, and that way when we have control, we can keep them maintained. We spend a tremendous amount on keeping our properties up, and like I said, we have the zero tolerance policy, because honestly, we get a lot of single moms, okay? And nobody wants their daughter or their granddaughter living next door to a bad person, okay? So if I let if we let that slide, and we let one bad person live there, guess what? Then I got a whole community full of bad people, because nobody wants to live beside a bad person other than another bad person. Okay? So we have a zero tolerance policy on that, and when they sign their lease, they acknowledge that, so that we don't have any issues with evicting them with the magistrate.
Okay, yeah, you acknowledge it. But over a period of time, it's all about money. It's all about how much money can I make off this property. It's not really about the people. It's about money.
Well, I'm not purporting to stand here and tell you that we're not in this to make money. I mean, everybody needs to make money or a profit to live, okay? But I'm just telling you, I've got many properties out there that, sometimes they work out, just like the other developer said. Sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't. I've got many properties on my books that don't make money. They lose money, but they're maintained the same way the rest of them are.
So how many do you have as home ownership? For purchase?
We
How
don't
many do you have that you built just for the reason to sell? For home ownership, not to rent?
I've built over 600 homes.
Councilwoman Moore, you have the floor. Are you complete?
When you say you built over 600, how many have you actually sold?
600.
Not rent?
I built over 600 single-family homes and sold over 600.
And in certain neighborhoods, we don't need any more rental properties. We need home ownership.
Okay.
In certain communities, we don't need any more rental properties.
Okay.
Are you complete, Councilwoman? Chair recognizes Councilman Schofield.
Pat, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you were referring to is that in these units, and sometimes y'all build townhome units and things like that as well. How many of those units do you, in the townhomes and the condo complexes, do you actually sell those units, or do you actually only rent those units?
Well, we can't sell them for the first 15 years.
Yeah.
We're restricted.
Even inside the townhomes and everything else.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So at the end of the 15-year period, then we can sell, if they're set up to be sold as individual units, like townhomes or single-family homes, we can sell them at the end of a 15-year period. And quite honestly, we're just now getting to the point and phase. We do have a few of those around. I have some in Sumter, and we have some in Rock Hill, and they're just now getting to that 15-year period, and we will sell those to individuals. Sorry, I didn't understand the question. I'm confused.
Just trying to help.
All right, any other question or comment from the council? If not, Mr. Conlon, thank you so much for taking your time and coming before us today, and I hope that things will continue for you to be able to communicate with communities regardless of wherever you go to develop. We thank you for doing that. Thank you. Next on our agenda, we have Bill number 2022-09 for first reading. It's an ordinance to annex and zone NC-10, the parcel located at 1142 Annell Drive, identified as Florence County Tax Map Parcel number 01794-03-009. We have a motion
Second.
and a second. We can hear from Mr. Jerry Dudley this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. This property is currently in the county, and the proposed zoning is NC 10, Neighborhood Conservation 10. That is in agreement with the surrounding property as well as the size of the lot, and it is developed as single-family residential. And let's see, let me get to a picture. Here's a picture of the home. Planning Commission did unanimously recommend the zoning of NC 10, 7-0 at their March 8th meeting. This concludes staff's report.
Do we have any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Let it reflect that Bill number 2022-09 has passed first reading. Next, we have Bill number 2022-10 for first reading. It's an ordinance to rezone from NC 15 to NC 6.3, the parcel located at 402 Thomas Road, identified as Florence County Tax Map parcel number 90018-07-004. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a motion in a second? We will hear from Mr. Dudley at this time.
Thank you, members of council. This property is on the corner of Thomas Road and 2nd Loop. It is adjacent to single-family residential along Thomas Road. The corridor along 2nd Loop here is developed with multifamily and some commercial properties along the 2nd Loop corridor. The applicant did propose the rezoning from Neighborhood Conservation 15, which is a single-family residential district, to an NC 6.3 single-family residential district. This would allow a more dense development of the property. It allows, in addition to single-family homes, it also allows multifamily apartment complex as well as townhomes, duplexes, and multiplexes. Here's a picture of the property. It is currently vacant. It's a grassed lot. At the Planning Commission meeting, the Neighborhood Association did bring forward a set of restrictive covenants that shows that there are restrictive covenants upon this lot which only allow single-family development on this parcel. And the Planning Department, when presented with such knowledge, we don't typically enforce restrictive covenants. However, when presented with restrictive covenants, according to the Planning Enabling Act, we are then unable to issue a zoning permit for anything outside of those restrictive covenants unless presented with permission from the Property Owners Association or a court order. So based upon this information presented at Planning Commission, the Planning Commission did vote 5-1 to deny this rezoning request. And this concludes staff's report.
The chair recognizes Pro Tem Bailey.
Chair, just to make sure I'm understanding, the request that is before us is to change the zoning where it would not be in conformity with the restrictive covenant.
That is correct.
That's all I need to know. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions or discussions? Hearing none. All those in favor of passing this ordinance signify by saying aye. All those opposed to passing this bill signify by saying aye. Aye. Let the record reflect that this has been denied unanimously by the council. Next, we have Bill number 2022-11 for first reading. It is an ordinance to amend Chapter 4, Article 14 of the Codes of Ordinance of the City of Florence entitled Single Family and Multifamily Residential Rental Housing Registry. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. At this time, we will hear from our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. On October 12th of 2020, council debated and passed what is commonly referred to as the rental registry ordinance. For those that were on council at the time or those that were interested participants or bystanders, You know that there was a lot of debate and a lot of information being passed around, different versions as we worked with our stakeholders. The ordinance that got passed was good. However, it has led to some confusion, and the ordinance that is in front of you now is an attempt of amendments to either clarify some confusion within the ordinance, or state on paper what the city has been doing and said we were going to do as far as the enforcement of the ordinance goes. The meat of the ordinance, if you will, has not changed, and the amendments that are proposed here do not weaken or lessen the responsibilities of the property owners or the responsible representatives when it comes to renting. It is basically an attempt to clean up, make clear the intent and the processes associated with the rental registry.
Do we have any questions or any discussion? If not, all those in favor of passing bill number 2022-11, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Let it, the record reflect that this bill has passed unanimously. Next, we will proceed into introductions of resolutions. Next, we have a resolution of resolutions to support the passing of the Creating a Respectful and Open World of Natural Hair, the Crown Act. I would like the motion that we receive this. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We will hear from Mr. Scotty Davis at this time, our Deputy City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As stated, before you is a resolution to support the passing of the Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair, or Crown Act, in the state of South Carolina. This bill was introduced in the State House on January 14th, 2020, and is currently residing in the South Carolina House Committee on Judiciary. Currently, 14 states have adopted the Crown Act or similar legislation. This bill would prohibit discrimination based on a person's hair texture or hairstyle if that style or texture is commonly associated with a particular race or national origin. And this resolution is sponsored by Madam Mayor.
Do we have any discussion? I would like to state that we do have a cosmetologist on and summer instructor on here who also supporting this bill. So if there's no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Let the record reflect that resolution number 2022-13 has passed unanimously. Next, we will have a report to our council for appointments to boards and commission, and I will recognize our Deputy City Manager, Mr. Scotty Davis, please to continue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Today we have 4 boards or commissions that either have vacancies or expired terms. Our first board is the Board of Zoning and Appeals. We did have a resignation on that board. We have an applicant, Mr. Michael Tommy Phillips. That appointment falls to Councilman McCall.
I would like to defer this at this time.
Next, we have Construction and Maintenance Board of Adjustments and Appeals. There are 2 vacancies on the board. The appointment requires an engineer and a mechanical contractor. I'm pleased to say that we do have an applicant, Mr. Michael Henry, and he is an engineer, and that appointment falls to Madam Mayor.
I would like to move to appoint Mr. Michael Henry Jr. to the position of A for the engineer. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of appointing Mr. Michael Henry Jr. to the position, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed, like sign. Please let the record reflect that Mr. Michael Henry Jr. has been appointed to the A position of engineer. Thank you.
Our next board is the Aesthetics Advisory Committee. There are 2 seats to be filled on this board. Members must reside or be employed within the city limits. We have no applicants. We do have nominations. It falls to Madam Mayor and Councilwoman Moore.
Seeing that we have no applicants at this time, we will have to defer. But I'll also encourage, I see a lot of people in the audience who are concerned about the city, and I will encourage you to go and take a look at this. So when you're looking at how the city is growing, how the city is appearing, that you would have input to help advise this council in that direction. So please, even to our general public, please go to cityoflorence.com and look at these positions so that you can apply for the application so that you can have an official position to help direct the city and where we go. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Next, we have our Resilience and Sustainability Advisory Committee. There are 2 seats to be filled on this board. Members must reside or be employed within the city limits. Memberships, we have 2 requirements. Must be from District 1 person, and the other should be from District 3. We have 2 applicants for the position. Ms. Lenora Rabin is from District 3, and Mr. Hunter Morgan is from District 3. The nominations fall first to Councilwoman Moore.
I'd like to appoint Lenora Rabin.
I would second that appointment. Do we have any discussion? I do want to clarify, Mr. Davis, Mrs. Rabin would be for representative from which district?
District 3.
So she'll be for number 3. Okay. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of Ms. Rabin being appointed to the position serving for District 3 signify by saying aye, please. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Please let the record reflect that Ms. Rabin has been appointed to the representative for District 3.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
just for clarification, you did say District 1. You did not mean District 2?
1 person from District 2 and 1 from District 3.
So, okay.
The next applicant is Mr. Hunter Morgan. Mr. Morgan is from District 3. We only have a position for District 2. And the appointment falls to Mayor Pro Tem Jabali.
So we have a position with no applicant. Is that what you're telling me?
Correct.
All right. Then I guess I'm not nominating anybody.
So that appointment is deferred to next time period. Once again, we're appealing to everyone to go forth and look at these positions and apply online. Thank you so much. Recognize the councilman.
I just want to, for the public, I want to say why I'm appointing Ms. Rabin. Because when I looked in her application, she actually does work in the community, volunteers. She donates her time at the Courtney Graham Community Shelter, and that's a homeless shelter. And that's important to me, very important to me. And then she donates a lot of her time for her church activities, Central United Methodist Church. And they have helped me in many ways also. So that's my reason for appointing her.
Thank you, Councilwoman, for that clarification. So at this time, we will proceed on with our committee reports, because that concludes we have one more appointment consideration.
One more, ma'am.
One more.
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
The appointment to the chairperson of the committee, of the Resilience and Sustainability Committee, that falls to council. At the last meeting, we did have 3 names, Ms. Lyles Cooper, Lauren Piner, and Leah Woodbury. They're all current members of the board, and council had a nomination for Lyles Cooper. That motion failed. Since then, we've also had Mindy Taylor to submit her name as being chair. So currently, council, in front of council, you have Lauren Piner, Leah Woodbury, and Mindy Taylor requesting to be chair. They're all current members of the board.
At this time, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Pat Gibson Moore, following Councilwoman
Well, you said in the
Moore.
last
We are
meeting it failed. Well, the meeting before that, I nominated someone, and we couldn't do it. So I'm going to nominate again Reverend Woodbury.
So we have a nomination on the floor. Nomination is still open. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Barnes.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Mindy Taylor.
At this time, we have 2 nominees on the floor. Do we have any other nominees? So at this time, we have Reverend Woodbury, and we have Ms. Mindy Taylor. Okay. All right. So this is nomination. First nominee we have is Reverend Leo Woodbury. And I'm going to have to ask y'all to raise hands so I can get accurate counts. All those in favor of Reverend Woodbury, please raise your hand. Okay. All right. We reflect that count. Reverend Woodbury, 1. Next, we have Ms. Mindy Taylor. All those in support of Ms. Mindy Taylor, please raise your hand. All right. So we have 1 for Reverend Woodbury, 6 for Ms. Taylor. So nominations complete. Vote signifies shows that Ms. Mindy Taylor will serve for the first year as the chair of the Resiliency and Sustainability Committee, after which time the committee itself would therefore be able to elect their chairperson according to their composition of their board.
That is
correct, Deputy City Manager?
Yes,
Does
ma'am.
that complete our appointments?
That concludes our reports.
Okay, at this time, we have committee reports. First on our agenda, we have a report from the Business Development Committee Chair. We have a report from the Business Chair, Business Development, please.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
The Business Development Committee met on March the 18th, and we were presented with additional information from Clint Moore about our gateways. It was an extension of the earlier meeting that we had in February looking at the gateways. Specifically, we looked at the I-20 gateway, the Oakland Avenue gateway, the North Irby TV Road gateway, and the East Palmetto Street corridor gateway. We were provided with very detailed maps for each gateway, which we have here showing the various different gateways coming in, the roads coming in, and the configurations for each one of these gateways. And it was very helpful looking at and just pointing out, if you look at some of these maps, and it's hard to see, but they show there's a lot of crisscrossing between what's in the city and what's in the county. So that's a challenge when you're dealing with these different gateways coming in and out of the city, because what may appear to you may see a welcome to Florence sign making the appearance as if this is all the city going from that point forward. But that's not the reality of it. The reality of it is you have a patchwork of city and county throughout, and I think they've been referred to as donut holes along the way, and so that presents a challenge for us working with the city staff, as well as trying to figure out how do we work this going forward. But it was a very productive meeting, and this is obviously a long-term issue that we've got that we're going to be needing to address comprehensively over a period of time. But we're starting the process of looking at all these different gateways and say, how do we make our city, appearance-wise, the kind of city we want it to be? And it's going to take some time, but it's a process that we're on, and it's going to tie in with the comprehensive plan, which we have, and tie in, of course, with the county's comprehensive plan. And just so everyone will know, the same consultant that the city has hired to help us develop our comprehensive plan is the same consultant that the county has hired to develop their comprehensive plan. So that should help make both sides work together even better as we go forward. There's also a 76 corridor study that was done, and so we're going to be working in conjunction with the county and the city working on that as well. So that's kind of a summary. Anything more from either of the council members? That's our report. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Chair, for that report. Next, we have a report from the Chair of the Community Development Committee.
Well, our community has been working on various things. One of the things is the gun violence initiative, as far as trying to gear up some things for the summer. As we met, we talked about we're now trying to do some improvements in these different areas. However, the improvements just can't be in the building. We've got to also do some work with the people. And so we searched and searched and searched, and we found a group that would work with us, Mingle, that would actually facilitate a summer once a month in the parks, loving on the community, bringing the community together, because this will help hopefully foster partnership with the city. The first event, we are hoping that it will be every third Sunday starting in May. The first one would be a battle of the DJs, because we need to get the younger people out and for them to experience community like we once had it. And so we're trying to bring back the love for community. Hopefully we will also do something to celebrate the lives that have gone on, that were lost in gun violence. But Nicole Elkers is here in the audience, and she's going to actually head that for us. And so we're really, really excited about that. And so any community members that would like to give input or maybe even serve our first meeting, we will let you know when the first meeting, but for the community, it will be at Jones Park, the first one in May. And so we will meet with the community members in their park facility. So, and she will get back with me on that. And did I leave out anything? Nope. That's it for the community.
Thank you, Chair, for that report. At this time, we will have a report from the Chair of the Marketing and Public Relationship Committee.
Well, first time as chair, we'll say we got out on time. No, just picking on my council man friend at the end. We did discuss ways to market and present what we termed government 101, finding ways to get out to the general public and the community about committees. You know, what are the committees? What are the processes to join a committee? Looking at avenues via social media. Also discussed having a spot on a local radio station, community broadcast, to have a 30-minute show talking about the city and how the city runs and how it operates. You know, what are ordinances, what are resolutions, you know, how you can get involved and participate. So those are some things we're looking to do. I think staff met with the radio station, and so we'll get another report at our next meeting. We did have to move our meeting 1 week back due to spring break, so we'll be meeting the last Wednesday of this month. But that's what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, we will have a report from the Chair of the Finance, Audit, and Budget Committee.
Yep, no report this time.
Thank you for that report. At this time, that concludes all the items on our agenda. We do not have an executive session based upon the fact that Bill number 2022-11 was actually handled without executive session. At this time, if there's no other further business, Chair will recognize Councilwoman Moore.
And I really should have said this during the Community Development Committee report, but keep Florence beautiful. On April 26th, we will be cleaning up Walnut Street. If you go through Walnut Street, you'll see trash all on the side of the road where people just throw stuff out. So anyone that's willing to come out and help with that, they will be greatly appreciated. It's going to start that morning at 11. I'll get more information to you as needed.
Thank you. Any other announcement from the committees that may have not been expressed? If not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's been motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.